In traditional Buddhism, self-observation is known as right mindfulness, which is the practice of scrutinizing defilements and delusion and being present in the now from moment to moment. The practice is comprised of a number of about 6 other pre-existing dhamma formulas or structures. These are the 4 categories of right mindfulness: the 5 hindrances, the 5 khandhas, which is another name for samskaras or skandhas. Other terms also include kleshas, and the 6 sensory impressions, and the 7 factors of awakening. Each element within each formula having its own specific remedy for removal. So while there are a number of aspects to right mindfulness as described in scripture, the Buddha only gave 2 primary instructions on this. One is to develop the skill in always remembering to follow the instructions of right mindfulness. So that one is very straightforward. The other instruction is the simile of the informed kingdom sentry. I mean, that's like the first rule of Fight Club is that there are no rules or something like that. So the simile for right mindfulness involves a sentry and is assigned a kingdom. And mindfulness acts as a gatekeeper who maintains constant watchfulness over the walled kingdom. The sentry carefully observes and checks everyone who enters and leaves the kingdom, ensuring that no bad people, only good people, only moral, virtuous people pass through the entrance and stay. So in the same way, students must maintain this kind of mindfulness of their mental activity through the virtue of right effort. And right effort, the sentry in the simile is responsible for providing hospitality for the virtuous citizens of the kingdom and escorting any negative emotions of hindrances out of the kingdom when needed. The virtuous citizens are symbols of the wholesome mental states for the 4 right efforts of love, generosity, renunciation, and clarity, and the 7 factors of enlightenment. So those who are not allowed entrance into the kingdom are the 5 hindrances, which are greed, anger, or hatred, laziness, or drowsiness even, restlessness, and doubt. The process of observing, recognizing, and disarming should be carried through with all the negative impressions that we receive. I say disarming because the mere observation of a defilement is only part of the complete teaching of mindfulness. And many times that's all we need to weaken the negative emotions or thoughts that we're experiencing. Just a very keen self-awareness and a returning to the present moment. And this over time reduces, recesses, diminishes, and falls away the samskaras of the mind, the conditioning of the mind. And it's a process of years and lifetimes. So the full practice, however, is taken a step further with other exercises like prayer and mantras and, of course, meditation in order to comprehend the negative feelings as well as negative perceptions, to comprehend why certain virtues or conditions are wrong. And through that comprehension comes wisdom, and actually these conditions die away through this process. So meditation is a more efficient way of practicing, getting right to the problem and uprooting the causes. But the practice of mindfulness is comprehensive in that it includes both the prevention of arising defilements as well as the cultivation of virtue. So now we can break it down further into different kinds of mindfulness. There are 4 foundations of right mindfulness. So these are aspects of mindfulness. There is the body. The goal is to remove attachment to bodily appearance and sensations, to be indifferent to sensations, to be indifferent to cosmetic things or pain and pleasure, any feelings, emotions, perspectives about it, and impressions in general. And with that, the next aspect is the mind. Typically thoughts. The point here is to recognize mental activity. If you don't recognize your thoughts, then there's not much control over just any of these hindrances, no control over the thoughts, of course. And now with regards to mindfulness of the body is one of the strongest aspects of ourselves that we identify with. Most of our self-concept comes from the way we look and the way we sound. So we build a personal character who has a particular style in the way of dressing or a hairstyle, a body type, an appearance, and facial features, and the sound of voice, and a way of walking. And we convince ourselves that that is who we are. And what do we know? This is very far from the truth. So to become aware that the body is not the self is to maintain mindfulness of the body in relation to the teaching of anatta or non-self. This is a little bit deeper because mindfulness of the body, of course, initial stages is just, and especially the everyday level is just being aware of, how you're breathing and how you're speaking, the way you're reacting or responding, whether or not you're reacting or responding to situations. So all those bodily functions. But to go further is to not identify with the body, right? To realize that it's impermanent. It's not intrinsically who you are. It doesn't have a lasting existence. And just as important, mindfulness of the body also entails the awareness of, as I said, breathing, heartbeat, digestion, other sensations. And so when we are very mindful of the body in this way, we are aware of how fast we're talking and all those things. We're always mindful, especially of how we're breathing. And maybe even the heart rate too. If we're very caught up in life, we don't notice these things as much. How we're walking, how we stand when we're talking to people, our body language, and how we make eye contact. So now what about physical sensations, bodily sensations? These actually have 2 polarities. They are either pleasant or unpleasant. So it's how we receive these sensations that really matters. Mindfulness of bodily sensations requires that we develop emotional detachment. So we have to stop indulging in and craving pleasant sensations. We want to work on renouncing that. And we also have to eliminate strong feelings of aversion or distaste toward unpleasant situations or sensations. So it's not good to have a lot of preference toward anything. Preference or taste is an opinion. It's bias. It's not necessarily how something is. It's just your perspective. And you don't want to be attached to something, and you don't want to be attached to the idea that you want to get away from something. So that aversion is a form of attachment. You're attached to the aversion. You want to get away from something. So you want to have less opinion about things, less taste. Otherwise, we should also not become attached to, likewise, we don't want to be repulsed by our body image either. And one effective way to develop this non-attachment is to become aware of the impermanence of the body. Everything about it, its appearance, its strength, its health, and sensations are temporary. Many unpleasant sensations, for example, are very transient and pass as soon as they come. So we shouldn't feel so much anxiety toward the body or dismay when we experience different kinds of atrophy. But at the same time, however, since this is a part of the middle path, mindfulness also entails that we are not neglecting, negligent of the body. We must take care of it. It is a vehicle for liberation. It manages energy. It is, in fact, a large organic battery with polarity to it. So that energy is important that we conserve it because we're using it for all sorts of processes. So we work with the body, and our consciousness is in the body, or at least associated with it. It's integrated. And so we have to take care of all this. Now, boredom that sometimes arises due to a lack of physical sensation is another emotion that we have to overcome. It's just another negative emotion that you can meditate on, but this is something that generally dissolves over time when we get used to providing service on a regular basis, because this work is limiting, but the lifestyle is so minimal or minimalist. We have to find other ways of keeping busy and not getting bored. And what better way than to help people in different ways, to serve people, to do things for people, to teach the Dharma. So there's keeping busy and getting bored, and with this practice, it's also possible to become emotionally detached from bodily sensations. Now, mindfulness of feelings, Vedana, unlike the ability of emotional detachment from bodily sensations, it's not possible to become emotionally detached from emotions themselves. And this is because the moment of a feeling, an emotion, we can't theoretically be removed from it. And this is one of the most common misunderstandings in mindfulness and other philosophies. The mere self-observation of an emotion is not detachment. It is just observation. You can't be sincerely angry and detached from your anger at the same time, actually, for instance. So self-observation, which is the first step in detachment, and then right effort is needed to remove the craving or aversion or whatever, what have you. And anger is a form of aversion. Now, aversion can be fear, or it's something that you want to get away from, some kind of resistance, and anger is resistance. You're resisting something when you're angry. Positive and negative emotions have their own specific methods for elimination as well. Then there's mindfulness of the mind, or citta. And mindfulness of citta involves recognizing all mental activity, which includes thoughts and memories and images, like imagination, and again, emotions. And the primary focus is to have the skill of mindfulness developed enough so that the student can easily and immediately recognize any emotion or mental impression that emerges in their mind the moment it arises, so that they don't react. That's the important part. Not reacting is the sign of self-control. And this category of mindfulness is based on the 5 hindrances. So one way to practice this is to go through each of the 5 hindrances and ask yourself whether or not you are experiencing them. In the suttas, there are teachings for preventing and removing each specific hindrance. Now, as part of the fourth category of right mindfulness, there is mindfulness of dhamma. This is known as dhamma vichaya. And it comes with its own subcategories or dhamma structures for mindfulness and meditative investigation. So when we look at dhamma vichaya, this investigative dhamma, what's included in the process is the 5 hindrances again, which are controlled by right effort. And these 5 hindrances are anger, greed or desire, sloth or depression, agitation or restlessness, and doubt. Now, the next formula is the 5 khandhas. I'm usually using Pali terms because I mainly teach Theravada Buddhism, even though sometimes I do talk about Vajrayana or Tantrayana. So for the khandhas, these are rupa, which relates to matter and form, including the physical body. Then there's vedana, which is feeling or sensation. And this is how we label an experience as pleasant, unpleasant, or neutral, or how we can feel these differences in feeling. Then there's samma, which is perception. And this is the part of the mind that recognizes and labels things. Then there's samskara, which is volition or mental formations. And this includes our subconscious habits and the shape and form of our willpower, as well as the various thoughts that lead to action. And vijnana is consciousness. And this is what allows us to experience the other 4. Then we have the 6 senses: sight, hearing, touch, taste, smell, and mind, which means impressions and intuition. So the impressions of the mind, these are basically kind of like the 5 senses that you can experience internally when you witness phenomena in your imagination or your dreams or in intuitive insights. So to conclude, right mindfulness contains the 7 factors of awakening themselves.